Hi, cuties. I'm going to read a book with chapters. It's called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I sent a lot of pictures to Daddy because this book doesn't have too many pictures in it. So he can show you the pictures and you'll know what the characters look like. I also have some really silly friends with me, and they're going to stay with me for the whole book, and it's going to take a couple days to read all the chapters. I'll turn the pages around when there's a picture to see. Down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get tired of sitting by her sister on the riverbank with nothing to do. Once or twice she looked into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what good is a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? She thought about making a daisy chain, but didn't feel like getting up and picking up the daisy. So she laid her head in her sister's lap and watched the clouds. Suddenly, a white rabbit with pink eyes ran by. Oh dear, I will be late," the white rabbit said. It took a watch out of its pocket and looked at it, then hurried away. Being very curious, Alice jumped to her feet and ran across the field after it. So she was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge, the bushes. Without thinking, she followed. The rabbit hole was a long tunnel that seemed to go on forever. She made her way through the narrow passageway as best she could, when suddenly it dropped down. Alice didn't have a minute to think before she realized she was falling down a very deep well. She seemed to be falling very slowly, so she spent her time looking around. Cupboards, bookshelves, maps, and pictures hung upon the nails that filled the walls of the well. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed it. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her disappointment, it was empty. So she carefully put it back into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Down, down, down she went. Would the fall ever come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen, she said out loud. I must be getting near the center of the earth. I wonder if I will fall right through it. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do. So Alice began talking to herself. Dinah will miss me, I think. Dinah was her cat. Oh, I wish you were down here with me, Dinah. She dozed off and dreamed that she was walking hand in hand with her cat, when suddenly, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice stood up and wiped herself off. She looked up to see where she had fallen from, but it was too dark to see anything at all. In front of her was another long passageway, and the white rabbit was hurrying down it. There wasn't a moment to lose. Away she went after the rabbit. Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting, she heard it say. She ran like the wind to catch up with it, but the rabbit was gone. There she stood, alone in a long hallway that was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the ceiling. There were doors all around, but they were all locked. She began to wonder if she was ever going to get out again. She decided to walk a little farther ahead to see what she could find. She came to a three-legged table made of solid glass. There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, and Alice's first thought was that it might belong to one of the doors in the hall. But the locks were either too large or the key was too small and it would not open any of the doors. She checked again. This time she found a low curtain that she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fit. Alice opened the door. She knelt down to look through it and saw the most beautiful garden she had ever seen. How she wished to get out of that dark hall and wander around the beds of bright flowers and cool fountains, but she couldn't even get her head through the doorway. She went back to the table, hoping she would find another key on it, or perhaps a book of rules to tell her how to get through the door. This time she found a little bottle on it. That was not there before. Around the neck of the bottle was a label printed with the words, "Drink me." Alice picked up the bottle, and seeing that it was not marked poison, she tasted it. It was delicious, and she quickly finished it. "Drink me." "What a curious feeling," said Alice. "I must be getting smaller." She was right. She was now only 10 inches high. "Now I'm the right size to go through the little door and into that beautiful garden," she thought to herself. Alice went to the back door, but had forgotten the little golden key. When she went back to the table for it, she couldn't reach it. She could see through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery. Alice sat down and cried. As she wiped the tears from her eyes, she noticed a little glass box lying under the table. She opened it and found a small cake that had the words, "Eat me," marked out in raisins. "Well, I'll eat it," said Alice, "and if it makes me grow bigger, I can reach the key. If it makes me grow smaller, I can slide under the door. Either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care what happens." She ate a little bit and held her hand on the top of the head to feel which way it was growing. She was surprised to find that she remained the same size. So she set to work and soon finished the cake. "Curiouser and curiouser," cried Alice. "I'm growing like a garden weed. Goodbye, feet." In fact, she had sprouted up to over 9 feet high. She grabbed the little golden key off the table and hurried back to the garden door. Poor Alice. Now she was too big to fit through the door, and all she could do was lie down on one side and look through into the garden with one eye. She sat up and began to cry again. "You ought to be ashamed of yourself," she said, crying like this. "Stop it right now." But she went on shedding gallons of tears until there was a large pool around her, about 4 inches deep and reaching halfway down the hall. She heard the little pattering of feet in the distance, and she quickly dried her eyes to see what was coming. It was the White Rabbit, all dressed up with a pair of white gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He was in a great hurry and muttering to himself, "Oh, the Duchess, oh, she will be angry if I keep her waiting." Alice was desperate for help, so she decided to see if the rabbit might have some ideas. She said in a timid voice, "If you please, sir." The rabbit was startled. He dropped the white gloves and the fan and scurried away into the darkness as fast as he could go. "Oh, now what am I going to do?" she sighed. Alice put the key on the table and picked up the fan and gloves. Since the hall was very hot, she fanned herself. "Who in the world am I?" she said. "I'm sure not Ada or Mabel. Oh my! Do I still remember all my school lessons?" Then she practiced her math and geography, which all came out wrong. "Everything is so different and I'm so different," she said, very confused. As she was walking, she looked down and saw that she had put on one of the little gloves. "Wait," she said, "how did I put on this glove? I must be growing small again. But how?" She had been cooling herself with the White Rabbit's fan. Suddenly she realized the fanning was making her grow smaller and smaller. She dropped the fan just in time. "That was close," said Alice, frightened at the sudden change, but very glad to find she was still in one piece. "Oh, the garden!" She ran as fast as she could to get back to the little door. But the little door was shut again, and the little golden key was lying on the glass table, just like before. Suddenly she slipped, splash, and there she was, up to her chin in salt water. She had fallen into the pool of tears which she had cried when she was 9 feet high. "I wish I hadn't cried so much," said Alice, as she swam around trying to find a way out. "I hope I don't drown in my own tears." Just then, she heard something splashing around in the pool and she swam toward it. At first she thought it must be a walrus or a hippopotamus. Then she remembered how small she was and saw it was only a mouse. "I wonder if I could speak to this mouse. There's no harm in trying," thought Alice. So she said, "Oh, mouse, do you know a way out of this pool?" The mouse looked at her but seemed to her to wink with one of its little eyes, but it said nothing. "Perhaps it doesn't understand English," thought Alice. "Wie est ma Cat?" which means, "Where is my cat?" The mouse jumped out of the water and fell back in, shaking with fright. "Oh, I'm sorry," cried Alice. "I forgot that you don't like cats." "Not like cats!" cried the mouse. "Would you like cats if you were me?" The mouse was trembling down to the end of its tail. "Oh, I'm so sorry to have frightened you," said Alice. "Please don't swim away." "Well, let's get to the shore," replied the mouse, "and then I'll tell you why I hate cats." By this time, the pool was getting crowded with birds and animals that had fallen into it. There was a duck, a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet, and several other strange creatures. Alice led the way, and the creatures followed her to shore. Okay, we're gonna stop there, and I'll do 2 more chapters tomorrow. Bye! Kisses to each other. Kisses to you. Kisses to Grammy.